This is an interview with the Gateway pundit's Christina Layler about Hunter Biden deciding to sue the IRS.
And it's important to understand the law. My background is in whistleblower protection. President Biden actually nominated me to the Merit Systems Protection Board because of that expertise, and I was confirmed by the Senate. And so it's important to understand that you don't have to go to Congress to be a whistleblower or to have made protected disclosures. Special Agent Shapley made disclosures that are protected by the whistleblower law throughout his time working on this case. And interviews by Congress with his second-level supervisor, Michael Batdorf, confirmed that just in the last week. They were aware of this. There actually was not a lot of pushback within his agency. The IRS supervisors either supported him in what he was doing, or those that didn't like it really backed away from the case and weren't involved. It wasn't until he disclosed his concerns to U.S. Attorney David Weiss that there began to be problems for him. And that's when Weiss began retaliating against him. And that's what set him on this path of deciding to come forward, both the retaliation and the knowledge that, as Weiss disclosed, Biden-appointed U.S. attorneys were blocking charges from being brought against Hunter Biden.
And ultimately, the ironic thing is Hunter Biden is accused of allegedly not paying taxes on a bunch of money. But now here he is suing essentially the IRS and, angry at the investigators because of an invasion of privacy.
It's very clear that Hunter Biden's attorneys are desperate. It seems they didn't expect there to be a gun charge because of the agreements, which Delaware prosecutors should never have been in the position of anyway. But now that that's happened, they are flailing, and they're apparently striking out anywhere they can.
Tristan, if we didn't have
Joining me now on the show is the Gateway pundit's Christina Layler. Christina, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me back.
Look, I appreciate your time today, and I wanted to talk to you about this new twist in the Hunter Biden crimes story. It is just phenomenal. Who would have thought that two IRS whistleblowers are now the subject of a lawsuit by Hunter Biden? Tell us what's going on.
Right. So Hunter Biden sued the IRS today after two whistleblowers came forward, and they essentially revealed that the government prosecutors were giving preferential treatment to Hunter Biden. And these are very credible whistleblowers. They came forward. They went through the proper channels for the whistleblower. And they went to Congress, and the House and Ways and Means Committee voted to make their report public. And that's when all of the information on Hunter Biden's tax scheme came out to the public. And so now Hunter is suing and saying, well, this is humiliating for Hunter Biden. Just because he's the president's son doesn't mean he can come out and talk about his tax, what he did with his taxes publicly. But when the Democrats were in power a few years ago and a Democrat chaired the House Ways and Means Committee, they voted to make Trump's tax returns publish. So now that the shoe's on the other foot, they're crying. And so Hunter Biden's suing, and the lawyers came out. So the lawyers for the whistleblowers came out and just said, this is just political. And now that Hunter Biden's secret's out and everybody knows, plea deal fell apart, his lawyers are getting desperate, and so now they're suing the IRS.
I find it extraordinary that Hunter Biden can use the word humiliation. This is a man who can have a laptop with all of those filthy videos on there, the behaviour, the business deals, the fact that he didn't do anything for the work except put his name there to provide access. It's just extraordinary, Christina.
Right, and he's never really had to pay for any of his crimes. He's lived a life of privilege. His father's been in politics for decades, and he's committed numerous crimes. He's never had to pay for any of them. And so after his plea deal fell apart, now, he got indicted recently. So he was indicted on some gun charge. He might get charged on his tax charges still. We'll see what happens with that. But I just think he's so desperate, and he's not used to actually having to, abide by any laws, that he's now lashing out at the IRS when they did their job.
Exactly.
And these IRS whistleblowers didn't operate the law. They went through the proper channels, and the House Ways and Means Committee voted to make the report public, which they are allowed to do.
It's not like there's no evidence that says that Hunter didn't pay his taxes. It's quite clear that there are millions of dollars in revenue here that he didn't pay, and this is part of the process. The other part of the story, Christine, and this is the disturbing part, and that is whistleblowers and whistleblower protections. It's one thing to provide for them, but when they get knocked back, as they consistently do, For mine, it points to the guilt of those who are pushing back on the whistleblowers, because this is the ultimate way this game is played. It's all lawfare, and he who has the most access to the most resources and the most power tends to win.
Exactly, and that's what this is. This is lawfare, and it's also it's scaring future whistleblowers from coming forward, because these guys, their lives are upside down because they went against the Biden regime. They went against the Biden family.
Is this only ever solved by exposure, and therefore the work of journalists like yourself is the only way out of this?
I don't know the way out of this, actually. But the best thing we can do is just get the truth out there. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. And I'm hoping that Hunter Biden does pay, because if I didn't pay my taxes like he didn't, I would be in jail.
Yeah.
So I do believe that sunlight's the best disinfectant. So we are doing what we can on the media side, and these whistleblowers, God bless them, they are not backing down. Their lawyers aren't backing down.
That's the problem, isn't it? It seems that when Hunter Biden wants to come out and say that he's being treated unfairly, the world looks around and says, you have got to be kidding yourself. It's just an unbelievable situation that we're in, Christina.
The House Ways and Means Committee, when it was chaired by a Democrat, they voted to make Trump's tax returns public. And they said, well, that's the way it is. That's the law. And so now that it's Hunter Biden, they're crying. Of
course. And the argument that they want to use is that Hunter Biden isn't the elected person, but the point there is the connection between him and who was the former vice president and now the president of the United States. Christina Layla, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.